sat me down one day and was like, I have a lot of friends that could use you and that should start podcasts, and you could build a great business doing this. So podcasts are going to be as necessary to any business as their website. You're just gonna have to do it, especially with AI. So we were recording with Barry and I looked down and we're like 10 minutes into the episode and there's a big error flashing up on the recording.
Ooh, all right. Welcome to episode 4 of the Oasis Media Podcast, and I have Johnny Podcasts as a special guest. Johnny has worked with dozens of podcasts. I met Johnny through Twitter about a couple of years ago, and we've stayed in touch, and I'm excited to talk to him today. So welcome to the podcast, Johnny.
Tyler, thanks for having me on. It was funny. I was telling somebody this morning, I haven't been a guest on a podcast in so long. It feels kind of weird because I'm normally the person in the background putting everything together. So it is kind of weird being behind the mic, but I appreciate you having me on and stoked for your new show. Yeah, like you said, we met on Twitter, which I think was really cool back in the day. Twitter's become something else now, and neither of us really use it anymore. But yeah, I'm stoked to be here and appreciate you inviting me on.
So let's just start with about 5-10 minutes of your background. I think you met Chris Powers in college. Is that correct? And then you started working with him and kind of built a great business just working on podcasts. So how did that all begin?
Yeah. So background context, I played college basketball for a couple years before transferring to TCU, which is in Fort Worth. And my senior year of college, I had done one internship over the summer and was not asked to, I didn't get hired there. Like normally how that went in college was, oh, you get an internship, you work there for a summer and then they offer you a job. Dude, I was falling asleep in meetings there, just bored out of my mind, going to the bathroom for like 30 minutes, just trying. It was the most soul crushing experience of my entire life. I hated every day of it. And on the last day of my internship, I walked out and they're like, all right, thanks for a great summer. And I went, I thought you guys were supposed to offer me a job. Like I thought that's how this went, but apparently I was just a terrible employee. So I'm sitting there in my apartment my senior year. I'm like, dude, I have no prospects. I have no clue what I'm going to do after college. I'm graduating in like 6 months. I have no plan. And I was like, all right, well, I'll do what every guy does and I'll start a podcast. And what do I know? Okay, I play basketball. I'll do an NBA podcast. Bought a Blue Yeti microphone off Amazon like you do when you start out, recorded in my closet and basically just like taught myself, all right, how do you record a podcast? How do you get it online? How do you edit this thing? And it was really fun. And, similar to people who are like vegan or do CrossFit, podcasters are the type of people when in conversation, like, oh, tell me about yourself. Like, oh, well, I have a podcast. So I was, told one of my professors one day and she said, hey, there's a alumni who wants to start a podcast. Can you talk to them? And that alumni ended up being Chris Powers, who was a huge real estate influencer online and in the DFW community. And I had no clue who he was. So he, threw on my suit and tie, put together a proposal for him. And he hired me as an intern to work on his podcast and did that for about 6 months. His podcast really took off. It's called the Powers Podcast now. And it's just, it's a really big show and I'm really grateful for Chris. He sat me down one day and was like, I have a lot of friends that could use you and that should start podcasts and you could build a great business doing this. So he wrote me a check to keep my apartment and my lights on and keep a little bit of food in the fridge for like a year. I think it was like a $20,000 check and said, just try and make something of this. And that was in 2018. So 8 years ago. And so since then, worked on lots of more podcasts. I'm probably working on about 12 to 15 shows at this point now. And it's been my full-time gig since I left college. I've never had a real job.
Man, that's amazing. Yeah, that's kind of similar to my story. I got one client, and then through that one client, you just expand and get more.
Yeah.
So you offer like a white glove podcast production service. What exactly does that include? Everywhere from joining Riverside to putting it out on YouTube, basically everything. So can you kind of describe what that looks like?
Yeah. So one of the big pivot points through what I've been doing the last 8 years was, okay, you can scale this to be one of those and there's, a handful of companies out there that do what we do, but just on a really big scale. And you have to have so many clients and so many shows to produce, to hire all of the editors, hire all of the social media people. I went the other direction and said, okay, what if I just kept it to a handful of shows where they're just getting the absolute premium service? Meaning I'm the only person they ever interact with. There is no overseas editor that they're talking to or sending files to, or 10 different places where they're uploading things. They don't know if their podcast is coming out on time. They have no clue if the person that sold them on this service is ever even going to listen or edit their show, or if it's going to be someone they never meet. Every person that I work with, every single second of audio or video that is recorded is passing in front of my eyes, my ears, before it goes to the public. And what that means is, if you were one of my clients, Tyler, and we were recording this podcast right now, before we recorded, I would have jumped onto this Riverside recording and go, Johnny, your lighting sucks. Fix that lighting back there. Your microphone isn't plugged in. Tyler, let's change your camera angle a little bit to get you centered more so that black square isn't, showing the corners of the white walls in your background, getting everybody dialed in. And then the spiel of, hey, listen, by the way, like, here's how the production side of this is going to go. And the reason I do that is because a lot of the clients that I work with are large kind of private equity, real estate investment funds, a lot of large companies where the guests that are coming on are all executives, and they unfortunately are kind of bound to a lot of compliance standards. So there are things that they can say, there are things that they can't say, and they can't be expected to remember all of that in a 90-minute recording that is just one part of their day where they're jumping on doing the podcast and then going about with the rest of their life. Maybe they said some deal that they're a part of that they can't talk about yet. They're raising a fund, a dollar amount attached to that fund, the name of the fund, and names of investors, things like that are really relevant to the discussion, but can't actually go out to the public. So what I'm telling them beforehand is, hey, listen, none of this is live streamed. I am editing the entire thing. So if there is something that you catch yourself during the recording, go take a bathroom break, take a pause, redo an answer, any of that. It just gets them more comfortable. And that is taking a lot of the work off of the host as well, to where they just have to show up and record. And then it translates into the back end too. Once that host has finished recording his podcast, they're done. They can walk away knowing that their podcast is coming out the next week, the next 2 weeks, the next month, with thumbnail, titles, graphics, social media content. The episode is fully edited. It is the best sounding podcast they've ever seen. It's visually appealing. There's an amazing hook at the beginning, custom graphics, custom lower thirds, show notes, transcripts, if I didn't mention that already. It's all being scheduled, uploaded, and released for them. The big selling point is all you have to do is figure out who you want to talk to and what you want to talk about. Everything else is handled for you by me. I have a ton of face-to-face with the host. They all have my personal phone number. They call me, text me. Anytime there's an issue, day or night, I'm there to answer their call, take their call. And I can keep a really small group of shows and hosts and be able to, build a business doing that, because it is, they're getting so much value out of just one person.
No, that's amazing. Yeah, I kind of pitched that as well. It's like all you need the client to do is sit down, record, and find the guest. And one thing that I'm curious about is one of my clients, Omar, went on Chris Powers' podcast, and his audio was just amazing. I was like, dude, this is great. So like all your podcasts, I feel like sound amazing. What do you use to tweak the audio, fix the audio? Do you do it all in like Premiere Pro, or what system do you use?
What's funny is like our world is a lot of is Adobe heads. So they're using Premiere, they're using I don't even know, After Effects. What's the video one? Audition. Audition's the audio one, and then Premiere is the video.
There's like there's like DaVinci, CapCut, all of them. I don't know.
I use all Apple products just because, it's like your gaming console. If you grew up on Xbox, you grew up on PlayStation, that's just kind of what you play when you're older. I started on a Mac when I was younger. I've never used PC, so I never really gravitated towards the Adobe suite. I use Logic Pro X for all of the audio. I use Final Cut Pro for all of the video. And then there's a handful of tools we can talk about outside of that I use as well. But all of the audio design is by hand. So it's weird. People I always tell people that people will find what they're supposed to do and what they really love to do every single day. I don't know what it is about me. My favorite thing in the world is taking just a piece of shit audio and making it sound good. And I will spend so much time on this audio just trying to make it listenable. And you learn through trial and error, like, okay, this is too loud. This is how you level out people's voices. This is how you remove all of the echo. The S's are a little bit too harsh. We've got some popping P's here. This is how you equalize a voice. And literally, there are schools that you can pay to learn how to do all this stuff. I just did it all by hand and all by ear and trial and error. So all of the audio is done in Logic Pro X, a lot of third-party plugins, but primarily what I'm focusing on is shaping that person's voice, which is called equalization, because every person's voice is unique. So I want it to sound really crisp and clear, remove as much echo as possible, make it, I call it sonically pleasing, but there's something, there's a term, I don't even know all of the terms just because I had to learn all this stuff. It's called clipping or peaking, where you kind of feel it piercing it feels like a needle's poking your eardrums, and you have to avoid that at all possible. So it can only the audio can only hit a certain decibel threshold before it peaks or clips. So learning how to do that, and you basically just want it to be really easy listening, and that's what I'm going for every single time.
No, that's amazing. And I kind of went the other route, which I learned when I started filming clients, I got a nice camera and I got some shitty lav mics. And I was like, oh, dude, as long as it looks good, people are going to watch it. But, dude, the audio is like by far the most important part. And if you can't nail that, it's not going to be a great podcast.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I tell people when starting out is when I'm working with someone who wants to start a podcast and I send them the list of equipment that they need to get, which is exactly what you and I are using right now, which is a Shure microphone. That's just like, everyone looks at Joe Rogan and they're like, oh, I want that microphone. You should want that microphone. They look at it and they look at the price and they're like, Jesus, do I really need to spend this much on a microphone? And I go, abso-freaking-lutely. Like, I don't care if you use a webcam or your iPhone for the video. When we're starting out, obviously we're going to upgrade that stuff as we go, but your audio has to be the best of the best because you're competing with so many other, not even just podcasts, you're competing with everything else in the world. If you, and just to condense that down, and a real example that I give to people is, let's just say that you have two of the exact same podcasts, exact same level of content, the exact same quality of content that you're taking away from it. It's CEO level. It's just amazing. But one person is using this microphone that we're using now, and the other person is talking into their laptop microphone. Which one is the majority of people going to gravitate towards? Probably the one with the microphone. So if you're going to step into this world, you have to go all in on the audio. It's the most important thing, because even like you and I were talking before we started recording, YouTube is the biggest place where people are consuming podcasts right now. But that doesn't necessarily mean that people are going to sit down and watch two talking heads for an hour and a half. They're playing it in their car. It's on their AirPods while their phone's in their pocket. YouTube is just the delivery mechanism, but the audio is the thing that people are consuming all of the time because they're doing other things while they're listening to the podcast. So it's just so critical to have great audio.
And if you get the great mic at the start, you can use it for like decades. Where I've had some clients who go cheap and they're like, dude, I'm just going to buy the cheapest one. And then by the time they realize that they need a better microphone, they've spent double what they should have. So it's like, if you just invest heavy at the beginning, it'll last you forever.
Yeah. And depending on the gear that you get, and I know you mentioned you wanted to talk about gear specifics, but the microphone that people will look at this tech and they'll say, oh, well, this microphone doesn't plug into my computer. There is a way to get the best possible sounding microphone and a little box this thing right here, that will plug into your computer to allow you to record online. And also you can take this into the field and do in-person recordings. You have just knocked out 100% of the ways to record your podcast with two pieces of equipment.
Yeah, I have that same exact one I'm using right now. It's so nice.
Yeah, but my office is just littered with like a graveyard of microphones and tech and stuff. Like, I have to test all this stuff out if I'm going to recommend it to people.
So then for the camera, if they don't want to use their Mac video camera, what camera would you recommend that's like $500?
Yeah. Okay. So I will give you the full, like, if you are wanting to just get your credit card out and have like the best looking podcast right out of the gate, the one that I always recommend to people is like the Sony A6700 DSLR camera, or what I'm using right now is a Canon EOS R100, which I think you can get for like $500. The next layer on top of that is a teleprompter. So are you familiar with the Elgato prompter?
I've heard about it. I mean, I don't have one, but
I'm using that right now. So I'm looking directly at Tyler right now. For those of you that are watching this on video, the camera is sitting directly behind the teleprompter. So what it's doing is it's putting the screen that I'm looking at right up in front of the camera lens. So while I'm looking directly at Tyler, I'm also looking directly into the camera. And you're getting 1080p, you can do 4K. That just takes you from having, like, for now, if you're watching on video, I could have you over here, and it looks like now this is what most people will look like when they're talking to somebody on a podcast. Their camera's off to the side, but I'm looking at you, but it doesn't look weird. That's not what you want the final product to look like. You want it to look like you're actually speaking to each other.
Got it. No, that makes sense. And yeah, if you have a
But
list
yeah,
of equipment, we can just put that in the description and we can.
sure. Yeah. I'll send over some links. It'll be in the show notes. It'll be Sony if if you don't want to go to the show notes, Sony A6700 or Canon EOS R100.
Got it. No, that's amazing. So when you start out with clients and you start building a podcast, what are some of the key metrics that you have them look at? Or do you just try to be consistent at the beginning? Like, hey, don't look at the metrics. We're going to do one podcast a week for the first 3 months. Like, that's the only input we're going to focus on. How do you kind of motivate them to keep going if they're not happy with the performance, or what do you have them look at to kind of keep them motivated?
One of the things that I always harp on is audience quality over audience quantity. So how I explain that even further is the people that I'm working with are never going to be Barstool, pardon my take. It's never going to happen. You're not going to get 150, that maybe you will. And this is going to sound bad until I explain it a little further. The people that I'm working with are, again, real estate investment people, private equity, people that are playing in that kind of world. The people that you want listening to your podcast are those kinds of people. You don't want, this is what I'm explaining to them. We don't give a shit if, Billy Bob, fat dude on his couch is listening, waiting for the next DraftKings ad. That's not who our target audience is. Our target audience is the people who are writing checks, investing in funds, investing in real estate deals, becoming capital partners, or becoming people that, the host ends up investing in with a company. So you want those type of people, 100 of those people, and it's never 100. Let's just say like if 2,000 of those people are infinitely more valuable than 100,000 people where you have no clue what their income is, who they are, what type of work they do. So you want to be really deliberate with who your audience is going to be. And then when we're starting out, I tell you need to have a goal. And the goal cannot be to be the next Joe Rogan. The goal cannot to be 100,000 downloads in a month. It's just never going to happen. The chances of that are 1 in 10 billion. It's so hard to achieve that. Your goal needs to be something else. And it's whether it's getting money invested into your next real estate deal, whether it is finding clients for your business, yada, yada, yada. That needs to be the goal that we're shooting for. And that's how we determine the success of this podcast, is people reaching out to you because of the podcast to do X, Y, and Z with you guys. Once they hear that, the whole idea of starting a podcast becomes a lot more manageable because they're not shooting for the moon for this, like, oh, I need to become this famous internet celebrity now. That's not why we're doing this. I call it indirect ad sales. We don't need Dollar Shave Club. We don't need DraftKings. We need the people that are going to actually be writing massive checks. Those are the people that we want listening.
So when you upload a podcast, you and I were both talking that we're both big YouTube guys. Do you upload it to YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and then is there any other platform that you put it out on?
Yeah, so for the uninitiated, for people that don't really understand how this all works, how I explain to people is your podcast has to live somewhere online, and then it gets distributed from there to Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, yada, yada, yada. There's like 100 different platforms that carry the audio side, and then you upload to YouTube as well. So for the audio portion, it's called a podcast hosting website, and I really recommend Megaphone. Megaphone is a great option. They're owned by Spotify. Basically, I will upload the episode to Megaphone. If the podcast is video for Spotify, then it's a video going up onto Megaphone, and then the audio gets distributed to Apple and all these other places. But if it's audio only, again, Megaphone goes there, title, show notes, cover art, time codes, links. That's getting scheduled out. Once that gets released, that's going out to those audio platforms. I would recommend people get on iHeartMusic, Amazon Podcasts, Amazon Music. You can create a podcast on YouTube that's different from your actual like video channel. So you can add a podcast on YouTube. I would recommend that as well. Obviously Apple, Spotify, but there's a handful of others. You just want your show to be everywhere. And then YouTube is just crucial. You have to be on YouTube if you have a podcast. So then outside of that, we're uploading to YouTube, thumbnail, title, same Dog and Pony Show gets uploaded and released there as well.
No, absolutely. Yeah, YouTube is definitely king. And we were talking beforehand that the market share of just how much YouTube is gaining on podcasts continue to go up and up. I remember when it was like maybe 2020 or even 2019 when I saw Part of My Take, they did their first video podcast, and I was watching it. I was like, holy shit, dude. Like, I love this. Like, it clicked. I'm like, dude, video podcasts are amazing. I rarely listen to just audio. I always like to have the video option in front of me. So I agree. I think YouTube is just going to continue getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah. And it's funny you say 2020 because that is the year. So the 2020, so 2018, I start my career. 2019, I'm a year into it trying to build this up. And 2020 hits and, everything shuts down. But the funny thing is that once everybody's locked in, everybody wanted to start a freaking podcast. And I had a lot of people come to me and say, hey, listen, I'm starting this podcast. Like, can you work with me? And I go, great. And they go, okay, we're going to have a video component. And I go, oh shit, I don't know how to edit video. I have no clue what I'm doing here. And so for like 3 months during the lockdowns, I literally locked myself within the lockdown and forced myself how to learn how to produce video. And that was 6 years ago. And that was the smartest thing I've ever done, was learning how to do video, because from there, exactly like you said, video just took off. Every single conversation I have had since then has been, video is a no-brainer. It's baked into the conversation. We're doing a podcast, it's going to be on video. And it's table stakes at this point. You have to be on camera.
No, I completely agree. So in the next couple of years, do you think, I'm under the impression that every business will eventually have podcasts. I think every hotel and every airport will eventually have like podcast studios that you can kind of rent out. So I think podcasts are just going to keep exploding. Are you under that same impression that you just think more and more podcasts are going to get created? Or do you think only the high quality ones are going to keep rising and eventually other people will just quit?
People will always quit podcasts. It's called pod fading. People last about 17 episodes is kind of the cutoff, whether you're actually going to be doing this for real or not. Yeah, I'm a huge believer in podcasts. Exactly like you said, the line that I use for everybody, I say podcasts are going to be as necessary to any business as their website. You're just going to have to do it, especially with AI. And, you can be an AI doomer and all this shit about like, oh, it's going to take over everything. Like, yeah, AI is here, so we got to learn to live with it. But how do you work around that? You have to humanize your brand. And the best way to do that is getting on camera, getting on a microphone, and recording content for your company. You don't have to be like, I'm really bullish on every company having a podcast. And I'm not so sure about like podcast studios for rent, just because the tech is so easy for everyone to do it at home. I like the novelty of doing podcasts in person. I think the episodes are a lot better. I've seen a lot of in-person studios come and go in my time. But yeah, I'm betting big on podcasting continuing to go up, or else I probably wouldn't still be doing this. It's funny. It's like one of those things where, I'll talk to people that I went to college to and they're like, oh, dude, you got into podcasting like at the right time. Like that was so crazy. Like, I can't believe you timed it right. And I was like, yeah, I guess we did. Like a podcast really just like blew up in 2018, 2019, 2020. Like it really became a big thing. And knowing how to do all this stuff now versus trying to learn it today has been really helpful. But again, that's where AI comes in to be a huge help. Like I use AI every single day, all the time. And if you're not getting with the times, you're going to be left behind, especially in podcasting. It just speeds up your production cadence by orders of magnitude that you can't even imagine. Like stuff that used to take me a week, I can do in 24 hours now. It is just boom, 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 boom. That allows you to have more clients. That allows you to get more episodes out on time. It's just amazing.
What are some of the AI tools that you use on a daily basis?
ChatGPT is huge. And not bullshit ChatGPT where I go, here's a podcast. Tell me about it. It is like really deliberate stuff. So for example, within ChatGPT, you can do the chats, but there's also projects that you can create with specific instructions. So for example, one of them is, it's called the podcast episode description. So every podcast needs show notes. It cannot be, like the worst thing you can see is when you open up a podcast and you see like, my guest today is Johnny Peterson, who is the owner of Johnny Podcasts. That's it. No links to who I am, not my ex, not my website, no topic points of what we talk about. So what I've done is created this ChatGPT project where the only thing it can read, it cannot go onto the internet, it cannot make its own decisions. The only thing it's allowed to do is read the full transcript of the episode that I give it. And what I tell it is, here's the transcript attached. The guest is Johnny Podcast. The host is Tyler Lambers. The name of the show is, what's the name of your podcast? Oasis?
Yeah, Oasis Media.
The name of the show is Oasis Media. Write this in the third person. It scans it and it has lists of, example podcast descriptions that it bases itself off of and the kind of style that I want it to write in. And then it gives me a full podcast description. So rather than me having to write that all up by hand, it's giving me the starting point, and then I tweak it from there, because obviously you don't want to just copy paste what AI gives you without even reading it. But that makes things like that, for example, is so much faster. Another one on the audio production side that's really incredible is called the Adobe Podcast Enhance. Is an amazing tool. So there's only so much that we can do by hand with problematic audio. Like if someone comes in and they're sitting, I've had guys, I did one podcast where this guy was sitting in a Bentley and recording from his laptop with like just dog shit internet. But he thought it was cool to record it from the Bentley. And I was like, okay, all right, man. I'm sure you can't just go into your office with the fiber optic speed. I'm sure people would prefer that. No, we're doing it in the car. All right. Adobe Podcast Enhance, again, gives you that really great base layer of, okay, we can repair this audio as much as possible, give it back to Johnny, and then he can finalize it and make it sound as amazing as possible. And so that takes a ton of time off my plate to really move audio in and out of the wheelhouse.
No, I completely agree. Yeah, I use it for the description as well. And even timestamps. Yep. I'll get timestamps and they won't be perfect, but at least it gives me something to like base off of and just tweak here and there. And yeah, I think AI is very important, and you still have to add some human element to it. Like I use AI called Autopod in Premiere Pro, where it will switch the
cuts back and forth.
And it's sometimes it fucks it up. So it's not perfect, but I'll go in there and it'll save me 90% of my work time. So it's been very, very helpful.
That's part of the process that I haven't really, like there are certain parts of the process that I will outsource to AI. There are other things that kind of tie into the whole white glove service where I'm like, this has to be done by a person. And so in terms of editing and sound engineering, I really rely on the human aspect of that. So I will have someone editing video. Their whole job is just cutting out ums and uhs. That's their only job. Cutting back and forth between who's talking, between the solo shots and the wide shots, and then removing long stutters, bathroom breaks, whatever it is that needs to be cut. And then from there, I'm going in and giving it another look over. That, because I don't use Premiere, I probably would be using Autopod. But that stuff like that, I think people will catch pretty quickly. It's like, oh, this is by AI. It looks like shit. Sounds like shit.
I've even had it before where I'll listen to a podcast and I think they put it in like Adobe Enhanced Speech and they crank it up to like 90%. I'm like, bro, this is way too, it sounds so robotic. So you got to be careful when you just put stuff in AI and like have it be the best quality it says, because it normally will just sound like shit.
Well, and it hallucinates too. I don't know if you've seen that too. So like if you put the audio into Adobe Enhance and then you download it, so I'll download it from there and drop it back into Logic, and I can see the whole audio timeline with all the waveforms popping up. I will put that right next to the original downloaded Riverside file, and I will literally scan the entire thing with my eyes, and I will see waveforms that pop up from the Adobe Enhance file where it just sounds like bleh, bleh. If you don't look at like, if you're just downloading that and putting that out to the public, like that's insane work to do that, because you're just killing your credibility and just like you're driving people away when you don't look at stuff like that. You have to have a really heavy-handed approach when it comes to using these AI tools.
No, I completely agree. And yeah, if someone will cough or if someone's phone vibrates on the table, AI will make it sound just like crazy.
Insane. Yeah, you have to get rid of all that stuff.
So you work on, how many shows do you currently work on? Like 8, 10?
Between like 12 and 15. So, that's not per week. So there's probably like 6 or 7 that are doing weekly shows. And then other people are doing, we do it every month. We do it every quarter. We do it kind of bi-weekly whenever we feel like getting to it. So top end's probably like 15.
So when you log on, say Monday morning, do you have a pretty good idea of how your week is going to be structured? Or will you sometimes have clients say like, oh shit, I want to record an emergency podcast. Can we quick do that? Or are you pretty structured on like, Monday morning, I have to do X, Y, Z every day of the week?
Yeah, so it's impossible to avoid the last second recording or the last second whatever coming out of the woodwork, and that's where you have to kind of charge rush fees for that kind of stuff, because I can't just drop everything. I cannot, like, it's like training you can't give these people bad habits and this applies to every aspect of life. You cannot allow yourself to be like, okay, I know that if I text Johnny at 2 a.m. that like for the same exact price, he's going to give me everything that I want. Like there has to be some kind of cutoff, even though it is a white glove service. But anyway, that's besides the point. Monday morning, I'm sitting down and I'm looking at Asana. So that's the kind of the work, that's the tool that I use of just like, I have every show that I work on is listed there and every episode that has been recorded and then the release date is all cataloged there. And so I'm seeing like, okay, I'm usually working about a week ahead as well. So I know the stuff that I'm working on Monday, that stuff's going to be going out next week. So most of my release days are on like Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So Monday is going to be finalizing stuff that's going out on Tuesday. Tuesday is going to be finalizing stuff that's going on Wednesday. Yeah, so on and so forth. And then within that is, okay, we are mixing the audio for next week's episode of this show. That is being sent to my editor. My editor is working on stuff that's going out in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And then I'm getting that back and reviewing it because it's going out next week. And then from there, it's everything's been edited. I've reviewed it. Now we're pulling hook options. We're creating thumbnails. We're doing the transcript. We're doing the show notes. Everything is being signed off on because a lot of the hosts want to see like, okay, give me like 4 hook options for this episode and I'll pick the best one. Give me 5 title options and I'll pick the best one. Feeding that back to me, I need them to record intros. So it's a lot of management of the host as well. And then even, and then within that is, new recordings are happening. So I'm jumping on Riverside calls. So it's a lot of everything every single day. I don't really have Monday is an editing day. Tuesday is a production day. Wednesday is a release day. It's a little bit of everything every day.
Got it. And when you meant Sauna, is that like a program you use or what exactly is Sauna?
Asana it's basically like a time management tool. So basically what I can do is I list out every single show that I work on is there. I'll click onto one show and then list out, okay, here are the 15 episodes that are going out over the next 15 weeks. Here are the dates that they're releasing. Here's the name of the guest. And then within that are subtasks of like edit is done, review is done, hooks and titles need to be approved, show notes need to be written, episode needs to be uploaded and scheduled, thumbnail needs to be created. Everything that goes into a particular episode is all housed within that one episode. And it's like a checklist that you can check off. And then so like every month or so, I'll go in and be like, all right, here's the next 6 months, because a lot of these people are planning out 6 or 7 months in the future of when recordings are happening and getting scheduled. And then I'll reference my Google Calendar of like, okay, today, like today at 11, I'm hopping on a podcast with Tyler. So that whole hour, I'm not doing anything else but doing that.
Got it. Okay.
But Asana is a wonderful tool to use and highly recommend.
I thought you meant like a sauna, like you sit in and like you start sweating. I was like, oh,
I was wondering why you were laughing. I was like, dude, don't hate on Asana, man. This shit's great. I do love a good sauna though.
Because currently I'm trying to build like a Notion dashboard for myself. And I just get
Notion's basically the same thing.
Okay. Because I sometimes just get in a rush, dude. I'm like, I just want to get this done as fast as possible, get it to the client. And I'm not great at like tracking. But what I've done recently is I'll create a loom of myself editing a podcast and I'll talk exactly what I want them to do. I'll use that transcript. I'll plug it into like ChatGPT or Claude and I'll get like the SOPs. And then I'll actually list out exactly what I need to do. So that way, if I have an editor who can help me, it's like, boom, I have exactly what I need to do. Because I hired an assistant last year and a lot of it was my fault because I didn't really have a good game plan of like what I wanted her to do. I didn't have work laid out exactly. It was more just like daily, like, oh shit, what could I have her do today? But to your point, it's like, if you lay out exactly what shows you have, what you need to do, when they're being like released, recorded, I feel like it helps out a lot.
Yeah, and stuff. When I'm working on 15 shows, dude, you have to be super organized, or stuff slips through the cracks, and then you get an email at 9 a.m. Where's the episode? And you go, oh shit, I didn't even start on that thing yet. That's never happened, but it's stuff like that you just like, you will get crushed if you are not really, really organized.
No, that makes sense. So I got a couple more questions for you. Currently, you've been in the podcast game for, I don't know, almost a decade now, 8 years, 7 years. You obviously have a wealth of knowledge now. What's something you know now that you wish you knew back in like 2018 for someone who wants to start like their own podcasting business? What's one piece of advice that you have that you're like, this will help you out big time if you know this?
get really good at everything. Don't just start out as an audio editor, because that's just not the world that we live in anymore. I was fortunate enough to be able to be like, okay, I just edit audio podcasts. That's what you do. If you're starting out, you need to learn Photoshop or Canva. You need to learn audio engineering. You need to learn video production. Those are the 3 things that you need to learn how to do. You also need to learn about podcast hosting. So like, how do I get a podcast online? How do I get it onto Apple Podcasts? How do I get it onto Spotify? How do I, like, those are probably the 4 big things that I wish I knew. In terms of actual recording, having backups for recording is probably the number one thing. If you're going to be recording live stuff, make sure you have your episode is being recorded in a couple different places, because it doesn't matter if you changed all the batteries in the camera. It doesn't matter if you've mixed like that socket in the wall is working. This audio is on. I'm listening to it. Something is going to go wrong at some point. And if you have a backup, you will save yourself a lot of stress.
No, that's great advice. And yeah, I completely agree with that. Back up everything, and you can never be too careful with enough backup. So we were chatting, I don't know, about a year ago, and one of your clients, Chris, was coming down to Miami to film with Barry Stern. How do you say it?
Sternlicht. Barry Sternlicht, yeah.
I was going to ask you, what's your favorite podcast that you've ever produced? And do you think it's that one, or is there a different one that comes to mind?
It was Barry's at first, just because like I didn't know who he was, because I don't play in that world. But once I looked him up afterwards, and you get the whole rigmarole of like going to his office, and he's got like his assistant with him, and it's just like, this dude's fucking big time. And that's actually a funny side story of like, always have a backup. So we were recording with Barry, and I flew into Miami, brought all the cameras, bought the audio, brought the microphones, had everything set up. We were recording. And I look down, and we're like 10 minutes into the episode, and there's a big error flashing up on the recording. It's a different video board. It was a different board than this, but basically on this screen here, it said card read error and nothing else on the screen. Dude, my heart almost blasted out of my chest. I didn't say a word. I just opened up the little SD card thing, popped it out, popped in the backup one. Gotta have backups for everything. Pop that in. Hit record. We started going. Thank God when I got home, that was like the most tense flight I've ever had of like waiting to get home to check this thing. I get home, I pop in the second one that I put in. The whole episode's there. Thank God. Pop in the first one. Nothing's there. I walk away from my computer for about 5 minutes, come back, popped up. It was all there. I don't know what the fuck happened.
Oh my God,
dude. I had never been more stressed in my entire life, because we paid for flights, took a lot of time booking this whole thing. And for me to drop the ball like that, I probably would have gotten fired for that. Like that's a fireable offense for sure. But my favorite one, we actually did favorite one that I worked on. We did a podcast with Colt McCoy, the former Texas quarterback and NFL quarterback. And dude, that was just so cool, man. Like, I'm not even a huge football guy. Like I, follow it tangentially, but like I grew up watching Colt McCoy play for Texas. Like he was just incredible. And so hearing his whole life story, meeting him in person was just so cool. Another fun one was really, I can't really take credit for this, but like at the time I was like, oh shit, this is really cool. I was working on a guy's podcast. His name is Zuby.
Oh yeah, Zuby. Yeah.
Yeah. So the British dude, so he had a podcast, and I don't know how we got connected, but I was editing his podcast for a little bit. And right around the time that I was working on his podcast, he goes on Joe Rogan, and Joe goes like this. I remember watching this episode. It's like, oh, I work with Zuby. He's on Joe. Joe pulls up his phone. He goes, dude, is this your podcast? And he plays a piece of the podcast that I worked on. He played it on his phone on the Joe Rogan Experience. And that was just like, I was so blown away. I was like, holy shit, like that's incredible.
That's
but
insane.
Again, but like, it's not my content.
Yeah.
I was just some back end guy that worked on it, but still, like in the moment, that was super cool.
It would have been sweet if it was like, oh, look at Produced by Johnny Podcast.
Yeah, from there, I was like, I should probably put Produced by Johnny Podcast in the show notes, or like right up there in the title for him to read. No, that was really cool though. Probably Colt though. Colt, Barry, Zuby's was really fun.
Have you met Zuby, or everything remote?
No, dude, it was all over the internet. It was crazy. Like thinking about that now, like how big of an online personality he is. I was just like, yeah, man, I'll edit your podcast. I genuinely don't remember how we even got connected.
I've met him once in Miami. He came in to do an interview with Anthony Pompliano, and we met him in the studio.
Yeah, Pomp, yeah.
And then him and I went to Chipotle afterwards, and we just randomly got Chipotle. And then 20 minutes later, I walked, and I'd never seen him again. But I'm like, oh, Zuby, that was kind of crazy. Super nice guy.
Oh yeah, he's a total stud.
Yeah, no. So what is your goal for, I guess, 2026, 2027, 2028? Are you mainly sticking to just podcasts, and you'd want to just grow the Johnny podcast empire, and you want to take on as many podcasts as you can? Or do you plan on sticking with your 15 shows and just trying to grow those and potentially get like a slice of revenue with some of those?
I'm not super interested in the revenue piece. I'm very happy with the pay that I get from being the producer for the shows. So I don't want to overextend my reach. I would say yes to both. I do want to continue growing the business by bringing on more shows, but very, very calculated. I say no to a lot of stuff. I say no to a lot of people just because I have a very deliberate and detailed, like, ideal customer profile of who I want to work with. And you only learn that through a lot of failed relationships. And I wouldn't say I have a lot of failed relationships, but like, you work with people and you work on shows where it's just like, this is a red flag, and then it ends up not working out. And like for example, I was working on a show that I won't name just because I like the guys, and they basically came to me and said like, hey, we need to pay you less for the same amount of work. And I want to say I was spending about 80% of I swear to God, 80% of my time working on this thing.
Oh my gosh.
Alone. And they wanted to cut my pay by like 50%.
Dude,
and so obviously I said no and walked away. Yeah. And, that's a lot of revenue that you leave on the table. So the big learning lesson from there is, don't put all your eggs in. If you're going to do what we're doing, don't put all your eggs in one client basket. It's great to start out with, but you need to spread that out across, because podcast churn is very real. People leave, people hire new, they want to go in a different direction. Whatever the case may be, you're probably not going to work on that show for the rest of your life until you die. So you need to always be trying to bring in new clients. So I do want to grow the shows that I'm working on, but also working within that understanding that like that, all that stuff can go away tomorrow, and you don't want to be left out in the cold. So yes to both. And then also continuing to grow the shows that I work on, because that's my main focus, is the shows that I work on now.
Yeah, no, to your point. When I started this, I only had one client, and I was like, oh, I'm going to work with this guy for the next 15, 20 years. And it's going to be amazing. I'm going to get a slice of revenue from all the sponsors, YouTube. Within about 8 months of working with him, he's like, yeah, by the way, I'm moving back to New York. And I was like, oh shit. Okay. This just got
sick. Thanks.
This just got real. So to your point, dude, every client you work with eventually is probably going to fade. So you got to spread yourself out and work on as much stuff as possible. And the ones that are just working, just double down on those and try to keep growing those.
And pay really close attention to every interaction you have. When you're vetting like a new client that you're bringing on, how quickly do they respond? Mm-hmm. Who's the person that's actually going to be paying you? Are they showing up to these calls? Are they the ones that are like talking? Do you have any interaction with them at all? Do they want you to sign a contract? Are you giving them? Do you have a contract that you give to them? How quickly are they paying you? Are you having to chase them down for payments all the time? Like if a lot of that stuff starts to stack up, you only learn this by getting burned. But once that stuff starts to stack up, you are able to see red flags really early, and you go, hey, look, like I really appreciate that you're interested in working with me. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be a good fit. I have, 5 or 6 other people that I can introduce you to, though. And you would, they would be happy to have you, and you would be happy to have them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I completely agree. And one thing I've learned is the clients that usually pay the most have the least amount of notes, and they bitch the least amount. So it's like the people that pay, I don't know, a couple hundred, whatever, the cheap amount, they're the ones that just complain and aren't on time. So go after like the big clients, because those are usually the best ones.
Yeah. And the only way that you get, and this is all advice for people that want to do what we're doing, you only get there by doing the crappy shows first, quote unquote crappy shows, the stuff that you don't want to work on. Like, you're taking everything that you can get at first. Like, I remember I used to do like full podcast production for like $50 an episode.
I would do video editing for like $50 too, like literally whatever it took.
Yeah, whatever it takes. And you just have to build your credibility, but you're also building your skill set at the same time. Like if you didn't go to like Full Sail University or whatever to like learn how to do all this stuff, you have to get reps under your belt to learn how to do this and build your credibility to then move up to the next level. And a lot of this stuff is introductions. And here's a little secret that I'll give of like getting new clients is part of the reason like why it's beneficial for me to jump on these calls beforehand and like get people set up. All these people that they're doing interviews with are all executives from big companies. And they're already showing an interest in podcasting, period, by showing up to this one show. Now, if they want to start their own, they go, oh, I know a guy I saw his face. He talked to me for 10 minutes about how to get everything set up. He seemed to know what he was doing. And, you know, if you have a good relationship with your host, that guest will reach out to the host and say like, hey, who does your podcast? And they'll reach out to me and say like, hey, are you interested in talking to this person? And be like, yeah, absolutely. And talk to them.
No, that's amazing. And yeah, it's a lot of my clients as well have just been a referral. Like it's usually the people that find you through social media and want to work with you are usually not the ones that are the best anyway. It's usually the referrals.
Yeah. Yeah. It's usually the referrals. I think most of the clients that I've started out with that came through like DMs on Twitter, I don't think I work with anymore.
No, that's true. By the way, when did you call yourself Johnny Podcast from the beginning?
No, the company was originally called Straight Up Podcasts, which my mom came up with. And my Twitter handle was Johnny Threederson because I was a white basketball player that shot threes and Threederson rhymes with Peterson. And then I was like, okay, Threederson isn't really productive for my brand of what I'm trying to build online. So I was like, oh, well, the big saying that goes around that people use all the time. We're like, oh, it's Johnny College over here. Oh, it's Johnny Welder, this guy. Oh, it's Johnny Big Nuts over here. So I was like, oh, what about Johnny Podcasts? And so that handle was available. I took it, announced it on Twitter and got it. Dude, I got a ton of positive feedback when I was like, I'm officially, did some bullshit. Like, I'm officially changing my Twitter handle. Like, hope you guys all, like, I want to represent my brand. Dude, people loved it. People love the name. I always leave it as Johnny Podcast when I jump on these calls. And people are like, oh, dude, is that your actual name? Like, it just, for whatever reason, just resonates super well. And so I was like, this has to become the brand. Like, I have to build it around this. So change the company name, website, everything last year to everything is now Johnny Podcasts.
Dude, no, it's the perfect name. And I mean, Johnny Football as well, like Johnny Mansell. It's just, the name, something about Johnny and then what you do, it just fits so well.
Yeah, I really lucked out with that. And I've seen other people try to replicate that and they just like, people try to ankle bite stuff all the time. And like, I've seen a lot of people try to rip off like the your name podcasts after it. It doesn't work. So thank you, mom and dad, for naming me John, because that worked out really well.
No, I mean, dude, yeah, that's awesome. Well, I appreciate you hopping on the call. You have passed a couple clients my way, so I very much appreciate and meeting you. And I hope we get to do this again in the future. And best of luck in the next couple of years. And thank you for dropping some bombs when it comes to podcast and finding clients and basically growing your business. So appreciate you coming on.
Appreciate for having me. This was a blast. Loved it.